Okay, this video in particular is going to be really bad because I don't have my good earbuds with the microphone, so I'm just using the computer microphone. But I wanted to go over a couple of things that we did in class and post it before I forgot or got home and didn't have it done. So you'll see here, this is in Springboard. When you log into Springboard, if you haven't done it yet, you'll have a number of different books right here. So you can scroll down. Obviously, I have only English books, but you'll choose the book that applies to you. And then you look right here, and it might pop up this one that says 2018. So you'll go here and make sure that you're on the one that says 2021, okay? And then we'll go to View ebook. And we're going to talk about this activity 412, Introducing Greek Drama. Here, are the learning targets here. Particularly, we're going to deal with what we need to know for tragic drama and Sophocles as we get into this play. So Antigone is obviously a very old play, written by Sophocles, ancient Greek drama. And so we talk about it because it does have universal themes, which is something I'm going to talk about a lot when we're reading older literature. And it does have the concept of the tragic hero. And of course, you read about that. You read a tragic book with a tragic hero and watched a movie with a tragic hero. And so Antigone is part of the Greek dramas that created the idea of the tragic hero, or someone who, begins up here, high position, but through some weakness or fault that they have, usually hubris or too much pride, they suffer some kind of downfall. And so that really has informed a lot of Western literature. Where when you get to The Crucible, that has a tragic hero, and that's a play written in the 20th century, even though it takes place in the 1600s. You watched No Country for Old Men, and Llewellyn in that movie is a tragic hero. And so these concepts still present themselves. Anakin Skywalker, yes, he becomes an anti-hero in his fall, but he also can be a tragic hero. He fits the definition. So we're going to kind of see that and work with that. So we're not going to do this embedded assessment. You can completely ignore that. So let's talk about ancient Greek drama. I am not going to get into all of this all the way because you are perfectly capable of reading it. But we talked about how Greek drama as a whole began with religious festivals and enacting how men's lives were affected by the gods. And so eventually the acting out of these tragedies written by Aeschylus, Euripides, Sophocles, they became a part of this religious festival. And you would go and you would watch these tragedies all day. And then whoever you see here, awards were given to the playwright who presented the best drama. And you see the best series of 3 dramas because they were in what are called cycles, what we would refer to now as trilogies, but they were called cycles. The plays were performed in these outdoor amphitheaters. They could seat 40,000 people. No, I can't do that. I'll have to show you. I'll pull up a picture and show you that. I'll post a couple of pictures in Classroom so you can see, or you can look up Greek amphitheaters. If you've played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you've seen the amphitheaters in that game, and they're smaller representations of what they really look like. And they would seat 20 to 30,000 people. There were a few that were very large, such as the one in Athens, that would seat a lot more. And so the amphitheaters were just designed in the semicircle that a lot of times if you go to a concert hall today, they're designed that way, so that the acoustics, the sound could get up to the top of the audience. All the actors were men, how it was, and they wore masks that represented what character they were playing, so that even people who were far away could tell which character was which. And the masks were designed with the mouth in the shape of a megaphone so that they would help to amplify. Their costumes were very large, so that you could see, flowy sleeves so that gestures would be big, and they wore large shoes so that the characters would be taller. People could see them from the back. The chorus is important. They were a group of actors. They danced choreographed movement, I guess is probably more like what it was, in the circle in front of the stage. They spoke together in unison. They would narrate events that had happened before the play, events that would happen off stage sometimes. And they also kind of represented how the audience is supposed to feel. They reflect what we as the audience would be thinking as the plot develops. They might make comments about the decisions the characters are making and whether they're wise or unwise, and they might express anxiety for the outcome of things, and they kind of pull the audience along with them. And like I say, they might tell us about things that happened off stage, because large and violent actions would take place off stage. If there was a battle, it was happening off stage. And partly that was because they didn't have the ability to represent that on a stage, and partly because they believed that in your imagination was a better place for that to take place. It was more, intense and awesome that way. So the last two things here are that the three unities, the unity of time, which means that all of the actions in the play would take place within a day, usually from morning to evening, but sometimes just within a 24-hour period. It just, keeps things focused. You're building directly to the climactic moment and then to the end. There wasn't really a lot of waiting around happening. Unity of place, which means that everything takes place in the same location. There's no scene changes. There's none of that. Something happens over there and a messenger comes to that place to tell you. If a main character goes somewhere, either a messenger or that character will come back and tell you what they did over there. So everything just takes place in this one area. And then the unity of action, which means that the whole plot is about one incident. There aren't any subplots. There aren't, any side quests or any secondary characters doing anything. It's one event, one direct line of action that takes, conflict to resolution. And the biggest thing here is that the audience knew the story ahead of time. There weren't really any surprises about what was happening. Instead, it's kind of like when you play a game a second time or watch a movie again, you already know what's going to happen. So this time you're there to see how the story develops, to notice the things you didn't notice before. Or even if it's, a new version of something, you might know the story of Cinderella, but you're interested to see, how does this director make the story come to life? What is it that they're going to focus on? Are there things that they're going to change or play up? And so that's why people, kind of went to experience the story again, even though they already knew what the end was going to be. And if you remember, when we read Romeo and Juliet, we already knew from the prologue what was going to happen. But the interest in the play is watching the characters get there. So let's talk about Sophocles really quickly. I'm just going to talk about Sophocles, and then I'm going to tell you to go do that Common Lit assignment of the Aristotle, because that's going to cover a lot of this tragedy and the tragic hero and what Aristotle's Poetics say. So Sophocles is one of the big Greek guys that we all know about. Aeschylus and Euripides are other Greek tragic playwrights that we know about, or that I suppose are the greatest of the tragic playwrights. No, some of that is because we have their plays, and other playwrights, we don't really have a lot of their works. As you'll see right here, Sophocles wrote more than 100 plays, but we only have 7. Fortunately, 3 of them are the Oedipus cycle, so we have an entire cycle, and we can see what that would look like. He was born in 496 BCE and lived for 90 years. And he had various, he was an aristocrat. And so, of course, in Greek society, that meant that he had a role to play in the aristocratic democracy that existed at the time, as well as being a playwright. So he won his first contest at the age of 28. And throughout his life, as he entered any year that he entered his tragic plays and competition, he won either first or second prize. So, he is, even for the time, at the time, was considered to be a great playwright. And fortunately, he's still considered to be one because we have some of his plays. But the biggest thing that Sophocles added to drama at the time was the addition of a third actor. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a third character, and I know sometimes when I talk about it, I'll say third character. there might be multiple characters, but up until Sophocles, only 2 actors would ever be on the stage at the time, along with the chorus, in front or interacting with the actors. But Sophocles added in the 3rd actor, so you can have 3 characters on stage at the same time interacting, and that was a big innovation for the time in the development of tragic drama. So that's kind of an overview of what we talked about for the most part. And so now you can go do that assignment for Common Lit, or if you did it before you did this, then feel free to go into your Springboard. Here we have a breakdown of the things about tragic drama and the tragic hero, and Aristotle's ideas about what made someone a strong tragic hero, what made something a good tragic drama. And so we'll bring that into our beginning reading Oedipus the King. I'm going to post some homework for that, and also as we start into Antigone.